Hi everyone, welcome to TGIF, another Friday, another episode. If there's one super cool innovation that the world has taken note in the recent past is OpenAI's ChatGPT. Of course, the bigger question is how do I apply this innovation into a specific industry scenario? You don't want to miss this episode as I have a special guest joining me today to reflect on OpenAI innovation, its availability in Azure, and how to contextualize for your business. I'm pleased to welcome Tulsi Menon today. She's from our Microsoft engineering team in Hyderabad. She's a group product manager with Azure AI Service. Tulsi, welcome to TGIF.
Hi, Sandeep. Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to talk about OpenAI today.
Awesome. Tulsi, quick one. Now, ChatGPT, right? That's something which everybody is talking about it. You know, it's been powered by GPT 3.5 series, right? And we have a partnership with OpenAI as well as Microsoft. So tell us more about this partnership and more about OpenAI.
So one, as you said, right, ChatGPT has been trending. It's been everywhere, and it's so fun to see the very interesting and diverse use cases that people have been using it for, and exploring this technology. And as you mentioned, this actually happens to be the fine-tuned version of a GPT 3.5 model, which is part of the broader OpenAI set of models. And the interesting thing that we have now and the advantage we have as Microsoft is we have a unique partnership with OpenAI, and we have an exclusive partnership where we take all of these super advanced state-of-the-art models and we're bringing that to customers, to enterprise customers everywhere with the power of Azure. And that's what Azure OpenAI Service is.
Perfect. Tulsi, you mentioned availability. It's available now. That means if a customer wants to look at these models and start building production-ready applications, they can start doing it from tomorrow, right?
That is correct. We just recently announced that the Azure OpenAI service is now generally available, which means production workloads can be used on top of it. In fact, we already have hundreds of customers using the Azure OpenAI service for a variety of use cases, right? We're talking about like small startups to multinationals. The Azure OpenAI service is basically just taking all of the goodness of the OpenAI models, making that available through Azure. So now you have all of the enterprise security, scalability, production workloads are back, easy integration with other Azure workloads, privacy, everything baked in. And the best bit, we also bake in responsible AI, right? Because all of this generative technology, it's important to make sure we're using this in the right way with the right principles. And Microsoft has been pioneering this whole responsible AI principles. And so even though this service is now generally available and in production, it's a managed GA, which means that you want to request access. We have a very thorough review process for making sure that the use cases and customer use cases are meeting our responsible AI principles.
Perfect. I think you brought an interesting point, Tulsi, in terms of while it's on Azure, I think we bring in responsible AI design principles. It's such an important aspect because end of the day, these are large language models, very powerful. It has to be put to good use, right? Absolutely. So quickly, talk us through GPT-3 right now, or 3.5 for that matter. What are the models we have under that bracket?
Yeah, we have multiple models available on Azure OpenAI. We have the GPT series of models, which is Ada, Babbage, Curie, and Da Vinci in increasing order of power, flexibility, and cost because of how computationally powerful they are. Then on the codex side, we also have two models. We have Cushman codex and then Da Vinci codex, which takes natural language to code generation.
Quickly, Tulsi, one of the questions that we get asked from customers on a regular basis, while all the goodness we have seen in ChatGPT is great, but I want to contextualize that innovation for my business. So, your guidance, how do you approach that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that the technology is amazing. It's a real huge leap, and it's a huge step function. It means that there is limitless possibilities, right? And so what I would say to everybody thinking about using these, think about your use case, because honestly, with the right configuration of different pieces of tech, almost anything is possible, right? And so the important thing we're noticing is to stop and think about, hey, what is the exact use case? What's the most important use case you want to solve? How do you define some of the parameters, the constraints, optimization, because you don't want to just throw everything, at the OpenAI models, and you have to know which model, zero shot, few shot, right? All of that. And so thinking through the use case, your constraints, maybe you want to have a layer before that for indexing. Let's say you want to use Azure Cognitive Search or something, right? You want to stitch in with speech, so you want to use the speech cognitive service. You want to generate a few, understand a few entities past those, or from the response that comes, understand entities, so do entity extraction using existing cognitive services, and then use that for the next layer of response, or next layer of action that you might take from what comes out of OpenAI models.
Wonderful. I think it's interesting perspective, Tulsi, because end of the day, it's not a one-stop shop. Give everything and OpenAI will solve for us. No, I think it's a question of looking at multiple building blocks to solve a problem, right? I think it's time for demo. Tulsi, take us through a short demo of what we have to offer.
Great. I'm going to pick one example actually of, let's imagine we have an insurance company where there's multiple claims that agents have to look at, and they have lots of data with with claims details, etc. Let's just use that as an example in use case. And I'm going to be doing this through the Azure OpenAI Playground. Right, so this is Azure OpenAI Studio, and this will give you a playground where you can see multiple deployments, both the out-of-box ones as well as maybe specific deployments that I might have created. You can also look for different examples. It gives you play examples, so you can test out things like summarization, classification, etc. So obviously, I don't want to use the play example. I have my own specific example. Right? Imagine I have, like I said, this insurance customer support bot that I'm using, right? And I'm saying I want to understand when a user comes in, puts in some kind of a request, I want to know what is the intent, right? So imagine a very simplified case where I'm saying, look, an intent could be about a new request or support for an existing claim or request, or maybe it's a policy question. And this is an example of few shot, right? I've picked a few examples and I've classified that. And I said, okay, now let me give a new query, which is what maybe the user is sending, and say, what's the category? And hit generate. And so it correctly, identify that as a support for an existing request. And remember, it's done that with just 3 examples.
Awesome. What next, Tulsi?
Yeah, and so this is one, right? Let's pick one more, which is very different. Let's pick the natural language to SQL, right? Which is more like the codex kind of models. So I'll pick and it even tells you, look at the playground, it tells you, hey, this template or this example works best with what kind of deployment. So this is my particular deployment of a codex model, right? And I'll pick, again, I don't want to pick a generic one. I want to pick my insurance kind of use case, right? So let's do that. Where all you have to do, again, this is actually a sort of zero shot example, because I'm just defining some of the table parameters. The important thing is, which is what a customer or an agent would put in, right? A natural language query saying, hey, give me something which is listing all the employees who processed, some claims, 50 claims, some months grouped by department. I'm not necessarily, using the right names of the tables or the columns, but I'm just giving it in natural language. And then seeing whether it can give me the exact NL to SQL query. And it does.
Yeah, very interesting. You know what? End of the day, see, while it may be a simple query, but look at the way it's able to construct an output, having understood the table structure. That's very powerful in that context.
Yeah, I want to do one last demo. And Sandeep, I'm going to use the demo that you actually used when you were, showcasing this in Bangalore when Satya was here in the summit in Bangalore. And I really love this example, so I'm going to steal it from you. Right?
Please go ahead. Yeah.
So this is an example where there is, let's say a really long claim document, like of a case, where there's a full write-up on all of the details of a particular claim for an accident that happened. Right? And you can imagine, obviously, in a company like this, in a use case like this, you would have multiple such long claims. Today, I'd have to read through this whole thing and then make some decisions, understand all of that, right? Let's start with a simple example of just doing a summary, right? All I do is, hey, TLDR, tell me a quick summary of this entire long document, because I don't want to read the whole thing. Great. Wow. I get a quick summarized view of which includes all of the details. In fact, I have parameters here. I can say max length, give me a summary which is just 100 tokens or 10 tokens. In fact, you can even do few short by showing that here what I want is a one-line summary, and it will try and give you the best one-line summary. So you can iterate quite a lot. This is pretty powerful on its own, right? And then so let's take it one step further and say, hey, let's ask more specific questions, right? Let me ask, what were the vehicles involved, right? Because again, I want to just know. Imagine again, you can construct it in so many different ways, but go look in that and tell me details of the vehicles involved. And it does a great job. It tells me the specifics of which vehicles were involved, right? Great, awesome. Now let's do more reasoning on top of this, right? Saying, hey, what we want the agents and others to do is decide if this claim needs to be approved or not, right? And let's see how we can get OpenAI models and GPT to help us with that, right? Should this claim be approved? And I'm also asking why, because I want to see what kind of details come out of that, right? So now what happens is, again, it's parsing through the data. It's actually saying, yes, the claim should be approved. And because the driver of this Tata Safari had green light, this one had the red light, it caused the collision, and that's why it happened. And I can keep going, right? I can say, hey, give me top 3 reasons, or tell me if the claim should not be approved, is there cause, right? Like there's so many ways you can go back and forth, and all of this through natural language, and it's actually reasoning over it, right?
Awesome, Tulsi, that was fantastic. I think, as you rightly said in the end, the best way to experience the power of OpenAI models is to get to Azure AI Playground and look at your data, look at zero-shot, few-shot learning, and see the magic that happens there. So, absolutely, thanks for your time today, Tulsi. Very meaningful conversation. I loved the demo that you showcased.
Thank you so much, Sandeep. And it's GA request access aka.ms/OAI/access.
Perfect. Tulsi, thank you so much for your time today. And for all viewers, as Tulsi rightly said, best way to understand the power of this model is to go to Azure Playground, play with the models, understand the true benefits of these models on your business. So with that, thanks for watching us today. Have a wonderful Friday. Keep watching TGIF and have a great weekend ahead. Bye-bye. Awesome.